Hi, I'm Mary Polchininoff, and welcome to Sure Things. The goal of the show in general for me has always been to help people connect with community resources. We have so many on the shoreline, and today I'm very proud to be talking with and dealing with one of our main resources, a very big one, the United Way. So today I'd like to introduce our two guests for today. We have Shawanda Swain, who is President and CEO of the Middlesex United Way, which is awesome. Welcome. And we have Dr. Crystal Mex, who's here. She's adjunct professor at Flinders University, and Dr. Mex will talk about her research into different groups with having to do with volunteer committee work. And she'll correct me on that later, I'm sure. But anyway, that's what we have so far. So welcome, Shawanda. Welcome, Crystal. So good to have you here. And I know we talked briefly in the beginning about, I did watch some of your interview before, and I'm just, again, so curious, and I want to get the word out to our region about all the work that you do in the community.
Thank you for having me.
So let's start. I'd love to know more about your background and yourself and what led you to United Way.
Yes, well, I kind of grew up in service. Grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and my mom was smart, looking for a safe place for her children to go, and found the Boys and Girls Club, and I was a member there, and I really enjoyed it. And although my degree was in education, I just really thought it was a place to connect with kids and serve them in a different way, and started working for them. And I worked for the Boys and Girls Club that I grew up in for 24 years.
Wow.
And then I came to Connecticut and worked as the VP of Operations in Hartford Boys and Girls Club for 7 years before I started here. So.
And I wasn't even really aware that we had the Boys and Club was active in Hartford, so that's really interesting.
Actually, Hartford is the where it started.
Really?
Three women started Boys and Girls Club. It was Boys Club first, ironically, but three women started.
And it was up in Hartford?
And it was in Hartford.
Isn't that
so
interesting? I'm very proud of that. I didn't know that.
Yeah, the founding club. So, yeah, I worked for them for 7 years, so total 30 years with Boys and Girls Club in a variety of positions, ending in the Vice President of Operations, and then also as a trainer for our national organization for 20 years. So they sent me around the country to train other Boys and Girls Club professionals in everything from leadership to education programs, just all kinds of programs. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. And while I was there, we also supported United Way, and I was very familiar with them. And what attracted me to that was working with children, you're focused on that group.
Right.
And your budget, your time, everything goes to that. But you see all the other issues that happen in a community that really you can't tap into. And so United Way was very intriguing for me because it was that next level opportunity to look at the bigger picture, to look at the community as a whole and say, how can we support all of the different facets that are ultimately going to support those children?
Sure.
You know, and whatever they're dealing with. So that's what brought me to United Way. I've been with Middlesex United Way for 1.5 years now.
Oh, excellent, excellent. Wow, that's a great background to bring to the organization as well. And you have a mission statement that goes with your program?
Yes, so basically the gist of it is we work with the community to determine what the needs are in the community. And then we support those efforts, not just financially, but also with our time and energy, and really kind of bringing the whole community together and finding resources that may get pooled. So one agency may have something, another agency doesn't, but how do we work together to ensure that the whole community can be elevated with those resources?
So you really are that connecting piece on some of those resources.
Exactly.
And I know we had a slide on that. I don't see it up now, but I know we had a slide on your mission.
Yes.
Which is really important because I'm sure that drives all your decisions when you go back to your mission statement.
You know, it's always looking at what are the needs in the core areas that we, our impact areas, which are education, health and wellness, financial stability, housing, racial equity and inclusion, and youth. So as we look at the things going on, those are our focal points. And if it fits under that, then they would be considered for opportunity to apply for one of our grants. And that RFP comes out every year.
Do you find, because I know there's set components you're talking about with the areas of impact, do you find most people that come to you with a need can fit into one of those?
Generally speaking,
Yeah, they
yes.
can, yeah.
A lot of them are in housing. There's a lot of issues in housing and financial stability with homelessness, of course, but also hungry. People are hungry, and finding connections for them to not only go to a pantry, but find the resources that they can support, their family. So that might be SNAP benefits or whatever. So
The economics.
211 is a big component that we support, and it's a part of our mission. So people call 211 and they get the information they need for the track that they're looking for. And over 13,000 people in Middlesex County have used that line.
And we are going to talk more about that, because I know there's an offshoot from that too, based upon the need.
Yes.
We did have the slide too with the impact areas, because I think that's very interesting.
Yes.
And just correct me if I'm wrong, so it sounds like in one of these areas, if somebody has a need, you're going to maybe connect them to another agency like SNAP. We're not necessarily saying United Way is going to do...
Exactly.
So do you have any of those areas that United Way is responsible for, or is it really the connecting?
We are more connecting, but in some cases, like we do housing prevention loss. So if somebody gets behind on their rent and they're going to be evicted, if they qualify, we actually give them that money to stay in their housing, because that's going to cost less than them being now homeless.
Sure.
And so we do that directly. And there are times where we're doing program, but typically we look to the agencies that we give funding to, and also we direct people to 211, which has all of the services,
supports.
Right, the support systems that they will call. So that is the first step. Typically they will call 211, and that will send them on the path based on what their need is. And then with our agencies, when they apply, we're looking at what they're trying to accomplish and does it meet one of our impact areas. And those impact areas have been set in place by those community opportunities where we sit down with the community and determine needs. What is going on? What are the big ticket items that we need to be looking at? How do we work together to do that? So housing and homelessness is a big one. Mental health is a big one. And then, people needing to feed themselves and their children that's a big. Those are the three big ones.
When you talked about sitting down with the community, and I know in previous you've mentioned the needs assessment, how do you get the members of that group, that focus group, to really get a handle on what's happening in that community?
Right.
I'm curious about that.
This will be my first time doing it since I've been here, but I think what it is you're looking at the different professions that also support that area. So you may have somebody from Middlesex Health that is part of this. You probably will have some social workers that are a part of it. You have some regular community residents that can talk about what they see when they walk in to get the services. There's some staff that might be a part of it because this is what they do every day. So you try to get a cross section of the community so that when you're speaking about it, it's not lost on in any one area.
Yeah, that's what I wondered. So you'd be doing that periodically?
Yes, so that will be coming up, yes. And in my year 2, this will be one of the projects. So in my year 1, one of the first things we did was we restarted the RFP process. So that gives opens up the call for our agencies to apply for our funding, and that hadn't been done in about 10 years.
And what does RFP stand for?
So it's just it's basically just an application process. So they have an opportunity, it'll come out in January, they see what the impact areas are, they see if they fit under them, they apply for those grants, and if they're selected, then they become one of the agencies that we give funding to. And outside of funding, we also provide support. So if we see in a survey that our funded agencies are saying, well, we are having trouble with building websites, or we need help with this support, then we put together those trainings and bring those people out to help support, because ultimately we want them to be successful
Sure.
in the things that they're doing, which is why we're funding them. And anything we can do to also strengthen the organization is what we're trying to do.
So you're president and CEO of the Middlesex branch. How much staff do you have?
Well, we only have 6 staff, so we have
Okay.
a very small team. We do a lot with volunteers when there are projects happening where community agencies need volunteers. We then put the call out.
You put that out.
And we will do some of it as well. I was recently have recently been on a build in East Hampton and fortunate with Habitat for Humanity
Okay.
to be able to help build a home for a family.
So you have just the connection as you're a support to Habitat for Humanity? I mean, they're their own group.
Exactly.
But you actually support their work as well.
Right, so we actually do give them funding at this time, but we also provide the hands.
manpower.
The manpower,
Or lady
you know,
power,
and
yes.
and it can't hurt to learn how to, you know, put fencing up or,
Right.
you know, put flooring down. So
Right.
it's been a great experience.
Right.
And you get to meet the family who also put in hours for the house as part of the requirements.
That's really
you know, it
touching,
really
yeah.
shows people, you know, that you're funding this, but it's a real person and a real family that you're giving this money to. It's not just like some money being passed around in offices.
Right.
This is real people being
Real people.
impacted.
Excellent. I'd love to see if we could put the graphic up about the region that you cover in Middlesex, because you
So,
have how many oh, here it is.
15 towns.
Oh, 15 towns, okay.
We cover all of Middlesex County
Yep.
with our 6-person team. We have 7 people because we have a loaned executive from Middlesex Health.
Okay.
And she's been with us for many years. But this is all the towns that we service. And, you know, part of what I've been doing in the last year and a half is really getting out to every town and getting to know
Right.
the people
Okay.
and the agencies that are there. And it's going to help me see how best we can
Absolutely.
service the community.
Absolutely.
So that's really been fun, getting
Excellent.
to know everybody.
Good, good. Well, we're going to take a short break, and when we return, we're going to talk more about 211 and hear from Dr. Mex as well on her research. We'll be right back.
The latest social media scam is yet another phishing scheme designed to scare Facebook users into sharing their login credentials. You receive an email that appears to come from Facebook and says your page has been disabled for violating Facebook terms. If you believe the decision is incorrect, you can request a review and file an appeal at the link below. Well, the message may also state that if you don't act in the next 24 hours, Facebook will delete your account permanently. The email includes a link that appears to lead to Facebook.com. However, if you hover over the link, you'll discover that it doesn't point to Facebook's website. If you click the link, you'll likely be taken to an official-looking page and prompted to complete a form and confirm your password, giving scammers all the information they need to hack your account. Instead, what you should do is log into your Facebook account directly to verify there's a problem. Never enter your login information on a third-party website. And remember, scammers love to target social media accounts, so fake alerts are not uncommon. You can read more about phishing scams at bbb.org.
Hello, welcome back to Sure Things. I'm here with President and CEO of Middlesex United Way, Shawanda Schwain, and Dr. Crystal Mex, who's here to also talk about her research on committees and volunteerism. So we'll hear more from her as well at this time. So before we left for break, you had mentioned 211, and I really wanted to talk more about the United Way's involvement with that.
Right. So people will be surprised, particularly in Connecticut, that there are 15 United Ways for different regions, and we are almost solely the support for 211 in Connecticut. There are some state contracts, but very limited. It is mostly relying on the money that each of our agencies raise. And it's a critical and vital,
Oh my gosh, yes.
you know, program that I can't imagine, you know, what people would do. Those 13,000 people that reached out looking for services,
Yes.
many in mental health, which is why 988 was
Right.
formed to be a pullout to support mental health, so that there wasn't a lot of wait time and people can get those services right away.
Is the 988 more mental health and suicide? Or?
Yes.
It is? Okay.
Yes, suicide prevention.
Suicide prevention.
Primarily.
So if I called 211 and I was having a real issue, they might refer me to?
Yes.
Okay, all right, that's great.
Yes.
And we can see all the calls that went in.
Exactly.
To 211, which is, I know in my background with education, we'd always say to parents, yes, you have an issue, 211.
Exactly.
And we would refer them to get that information.
Exactly, and they are equipped. They get very intensive training, the staff there, and they are there to help. And they really are passionate about the work they do. And I think it comes across in how they deal with people.
Yeah.
I was interviewing someone recently, and he had the experience of having to use 211, and he talked about how when you're at your lowest, these people were so gracious, and that's important. No one needs a kick while they're down, right? Or feeling like they're being thrown through a million hoops. And it was really, I was very happy to hear that he felt very supported, and that the person took the time to hear what he needed and really work through his process to get him what he needed.
Awesome, that's wonderful. That I know very well of that resource, and I know it's very needed. We also wanted to talk about the topic of ALICE.
Yes.
And the need, because there's another graphic on ALICE and the percents, which is very telling. But if you could tell us a little bit more about the ALICE program.
So ALICE is asset limited, income constrained employed. And that is, I would say, a whole lot of the community where you may be working 2-3 jobs and you still can't make ends meet, and you're still making decisions around, should I pay this bill or do we eat? Can, if I don't pay this, I'll get the lights cut off or pay this bill. It's that line where you're not on the poverty line, so you don't qualify for SNAP, you don't qualify for Medicaid, you don't qualify for any additional services, but you're not really able to live, and I can say growing up in poverty and coming out of that, even working at the Boys and Girls Clubs, there were times where I was definitely Alice, and though I had a great job that I loved, it was full-time, it was really hard to make ends meet at times, but that was the choice that I made. That's the career that I wanted. So ALICE is a population that people don't often think about. They think, oh, you're either receiving benefits because you're below poverty level, or you're middle class or well off, and more of the country is becoming ALICE.
And I know because I'm from Westbrook, and I looked at Westbrook's percent of people that qualify for ALICE at 36%. And I know as a town, we have banded together. We have done the lunches during the summer for students. We've done different things to help the community, because it's all needed, as well as all our food drives.
Exactly, and that is often a misconception. People look at particularly the shoreline and they automatically think, oh, they don't have a need. That's a well-off community, but it's actually, there are quite a few people still struggling to make ends meet, and wondering, especially when school gets out, how they're going to feed their kids.
And that's why we had initiated our program, which was wonderful. And anybody was welcome to stop in and have lunch, which was great. So to carry on with our conversation about volunteerism and governance, I wanted to bring in Dr. Mex here, because I know you've done research that I feel is vital when we talk about these committees and groups. So if you could just tell us a little bit about your research and findings.
Sure. I was a city councillor where I live in Adelaide, Australia, and I found at annual general meetings for organizations like Habitat for Humanity or a tennis club or a Rotary Club that very few people were putting their hand up when they were calling out for nominations to join the leadership team. So being the president of a club, secretary, treasurer, nobody was putting their hands up. So the current leadership teams felt they couldn't resign, they couldn't move on. So they were really straining. So I did a PhD. I was lucky to get a scholarship, looked into this problem, and I found that people weren't putting their hand up for two main reasons. One was, interestingly, bad behavior and committees themselves.
Bad behavior.
Bad behavior could be not moving
or?
with the times. Might be very nice people, but they might say, oh, I'm not going to use email. We've been doing things in writing, pad and paper forever. Nothing's wrong. We don't need to change. Or to bullying or not welcoming people in. And, so one example was interesting. It was a crocheting club, and a young girl was in her 20s when she wanted to learn how to crochet, and the older ladies there snapped her up and said, join the committee. She came to the first meeting. She tried to say something. No, you can't talk until other business. And, oh, but no. And it was all very formal, and so she ran away after that.
The governance, and that's the governing, really, part of that committee that really turned people
So the
off.
other thing that's hard on these small organizations is the increased governance problems, whether it be insurance costs, risk management, the guidelines for grants that are really hard to obtain, lots of paperwork, and people want volunteer to have fun and enjoy themselves, to meet friends, to learn.
Yeah.
But when you're lumbered with bad behaviors and then all the red tape that goes with leading a committee, it's very daunting. So
they had a hard time. They would have a hard time.
These small organizations in Australia are closing their doors because you can't have an organization without leadership.
Sure.
And young people want to volunteer and lead their own initiatives, but they don't like the committees or the formalities of things.
Right.
Now with Facebook groups and other ways of organizing, they're doing their own thing. So they don't want to do the organizing in the old-fashioned way.
Right. Did you find helpful hints as far as addressing that situation?
Sure, but always be mindful about if I was in that new person's position, how would I feel?
Yeah.
You know, do I go into a committee saying, no, we're doing things my way or the highway, or do you want to understand that your organization is struggling because you can't find leaders? So how can I change the behavior? Or how can I influence a better culture on my committee so that we can encourage people to join the committee and have some fun?
Right. And I really felt this was an important topic.
Yes.
Yeah. And I felt this was an important connection because as with United, you work with all the other organizations and groups, and you have to have, as you're saying,
and we found
leadership.
that these groups were crying out for support and training, and what United Way is doing is fabulous. You're probably giving leadership workshops already and helping these committees be more sustainable, and that we would love to have a United Way in Australia.
There you go. Maybe
Send for me. Send for me.
There you go. And that might be a good connection right there.
Yes.
No, well, it's interesting how that goes together. Now, when you mention leadership, because you mentioned leadership, do you have an offshoot in United Way that deals with leadership training?
Yeah. So outside of our board, we have two other kind of committees: emerging leaders, which are young leaders, and we do try to come at that at a different approach, where they're most social gatherings, where they're kind of meeting people,
kind of like
and part of what we will be doing for them is, because we're just starting it back up after COVID, is offering trainings and opportunities for them to understand how to grow in the world of work that they're in.
Sure.
So you want to give something for the time and energy that they're also getting.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
And then the other group is our Women United. And that group really raises money to support specifically women and children issues. And so they do a host of events, and then they put out small grant opportunities for programs around women and children. And I have to say, that group has started up already, and they are a powerhouse. And it's a nice mix of people who've been there and new people, because you have to evolve. If you don't, then you will die on the vine, right? If you're
It's kind of like what you're saying,
constantly in just focusing on what we've done in the past. I've heard that a lot since I've been here too. Is, oh, we did it this way, we did it that way, and finding new ways to evolve and make things make sense in the time we live in, even to attract staff.
Right.
You know.
Right.
So that's been a big thing that I had to look at as well.
Yeah. Can we talk a bit about your upcoming events? Like what you have going on? I don't know if we have that slide for upcoming events.
We have
I would love to.
A slew of things.
No slide. Okay, that's okay. We don't need the slide. We can talk about it.
Yes, we have a slew of things coming up. We have, well, there's one tonight, so that we'll miss. But we have a Top Dog fundraiser in Portland in August 10th. And it's a hot dog fundraiser in the community. Nora's Cupcakes and Al's Ice Cream in Middletown will be doing a 10% day for us. And so a lot of these places, we've gone and asked them, hey, would you take a day and give us 10% of the earnings to help support what we do in the community? And we're getting really good traction with businesses wanting to help. So Mondo's is one of them in Middletown, Top Dog in Portland, Nora's Cupcake and Our Ice Cream in Middletown. Chipotle is also agreed to do it. in Middletown. And then another thing that will be coming up in October is the President's Masquerade Ball. So that's new to our
okay.
organization. There'll be no speeches. No, it'll just really be an opportunity
In October?
to have fun. Yes, and that'll be at the Wadsworth Mansion on
Wow,
October 28th.
that will be beautiful.
Yeah,
wow,
so
good. What a great place for it.
And then in May 24, we have a golf outing as well. So we have a series of things. We have popcorn sales that we started this year that we also will do in November, and that is all digital. So everybody gets the link. Their friends pay for their popcorn. It goes to their house. Nobody has to collect it and
I love that
put it
part.
in a fancy box.
Right.
It all goes straight
Yes,
to them. So that's evolving. It's finding things that are current with the
And
times.
how would people find out this information?
They would go to our website.
Okay.
We have a QR code. I'm not sure if that's going to come up, but if you go to the website, it's on there as well, and it will list all of our events that are coming up.
And can people also sign up to volunteer through your website?
Absolutely.
Okay,
They can
great.
sign up to volunteer. They can sign up to give if they want.
Yes,
and
great.
it can be a one-time gift. It can be an ongoing gift.
Sure.
So all of those things are there, and every one of them are important. So if you want to give your time, and that may be a skill that you have that you want to bring to the table, or you just want to use your hands to help build a garden, all of that matters and helps the communities that we serve. So.
Well, thank you so much. This has been so informative, and I feel like we could have done another hour. I really do. There's still questions I didn't get to, but I want to thank you. Thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you, Dr. Mex, as well. Hope you enjoyed today's show. Please send any questions or comments to me at surethingsct@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. Till next time, take care.